Good morning and welcome to LDL TV, presenting Design Your Summer for international students. We are excited to really talk about managing the wicked problem of finding a place to practice your calling and perform your life's work. Wicked problems are those that are ambiguous and complex. They are many unknowns, many outcomes, and in the midst of it, you can tell if you're winning. Design thinking is uniquely suited to help with these wicked problems. And so we like to really think about how we use design thinking to guide our search. And so in that, I'm going to transition. So in that, this session, we want to really think about how do you get out, what do you want to get out this summer, learn new techniques to produce ideas and such, and select the best one. And then you ask questions and then really identify two to three next steps for you. So there are some people that we have in the room that are here to actually help you navigate this experience. And so we have Daisha from Office of International Service. Myself, I am one of the LDL educators for diversity and inclusion. We have Mark, who is an LDL educator for engineering master students. Sanjala, who is an LDL educator for AMS graduate students, and then Luis, who is an LDL educator for ChemBE and MSE students, but also a former international scholar that really spearheaded our conversations to really think about supporting international students. So now we want to know who you are, and so we're glad that you're here today. So if you can go to srs.campuslabs.com. So I have put that in the chat, but you also could just type it in your URL browser or on your phone. If you wanted to do it on your phone, you would enter the Connect ID 7090, and we will kind of work through some questions with you. If it lets me get to that particular slide, there we go. So this is what you'll see, and you'll enter the Connect ID right there. And I'm just going to start it for us. All right, refresh because the Wi-Fi doesn't want to work with me. Come on. Excuse me. Of course it worked.
Okay, so one of the first steps with, let's see. One of the first steps about thinking about what you want to do during your summer is, thinking about like, what do you want to get out? So I will just share my screen. So there is, so this is some idea like what you want to get out of this summer. Then maybe you want to showcase your skill, like you have this skill, but you don't really have an experience to connect with. So you will like a project, something that you can showcase that you actually know how to do. Perhaps you also want to get occupied. I think at least like for me, I know I won't be able to go home for this summer, and I really need a project for this summer. If not, you know, it would be hard. You also may money, financial contribution in any ways. You may want to focus on discovering new stuff. So you can take that next year, and perhaps this will like what you do will impact what you do next year. And it can also be part of your curriculum, kind of official or not official, like you need to get a professional experience. So I will just launch. I know I cannot. Okay. Clifton, can you check if you can launch the polls? I was able to do it before, and now it tells me like I cannot.
Working on it.
If not, we can just skip and I can continue.
Launch. Failed error. Did you all see that? You see the poll? No? Yes? Awesome.
What do you mean by green lights and red lights?
Oh yeah, now so there's different polls.
Yeah. It's weird that it didn't do that
So
one.
it's the last one, the fifth.
Okay. There we go. Sorry.
Do we have to prioritize this, or is it like we can choose all the things that we want?
I think you can select different, you have a multiple choice, you can select different one. It's just to get a sense what people are interested in. So Clifton, can you see the result?
Yes.
Share it with us.
So I'm going to do that now. We were waiting for 3 more people.
Okay.
All right, we're going to share it now. All right. Thank you. So we could continue on. So we will try to focus on some of these areas when we think about sharing some resources later on. But then what we're going to do, and you can also do the SRS link at your leisure throughout the presentation. What we'll do is take a look at that later as well and figure out what next steps might be to support you all. But next we'll have Mark talk about some skills that employers are looking for, and then continue throughout and work together on some activities.
Okay, so how many skills do you think you have? Answer in your own head. So when I pose this question to students, and currently I work mostly with engineering master students, I typically get answers like 15, 20. You know how many skills you have as college students? Somewhere between 700 and 800. That might be hard to believe, but it's true. You are college students, you have many experiences, so 700 to 800 skills are what you have. And you need to figure out what they are. Many skills that you have come from your experience, and many fit into these categories that you see on the left. These are skills that employers say that they typically look for in candidates that they are considering for various positions. Some of these are transferable skills. So leadership, work ethic, flexibility, analytical skills, these are all called transferable skills. That means that they transfer across fields, no matter what field you're interested in, those skills are going to be utilized over and over and over again. So if you move from a job in banking to a skill or to a job in design, those skills are going to be applicable in many different fields. These transferable skills are also transferable over time. So when you were very young and you convinced your parents to let you stay up later than they wanted you to go to bed, you know, I want a glass of water, read me a story, I'm afraid of the boogeyman, you know, you probably are going to be pretty good at influencing people now, and you will be when you're 50 years old and older as well. So if you, let's say, look at leadership. Okay? Leadership is comprised of many other kinds of skills. Communication, you all have that. Organization, teamwork, planning, coordination, all of these are sub-skills that together provide the skill set of leadership, right? And so you want to sort of list these skills in your resume by name and show examples in your resume, and when you are talking with employers or when you're just putting yourself out there for other people to connect with you. You will be judged for your skills and your likability factors. And so the other thing I want you to keep in mind is to include accomplishments from your home country, right? Many of you have very interesting stories to tell from your home country. And when I talk with my international students, I am sort of overwhelmed by some of the experiences they tell me about, because some of the experiences they have, I am never going to experience as an American. And I, you know, one example, I talk about a student I met with from India. He told me a story about how he was volunteering to rebuild school buildings where the walls have been knocked down. And I asked, why are the walls being knocked down? Oh, he said, you know, elephants come out of the jungle and knock down these walls all the time. I'm never going to see, as an American, the only place I'm going to see an elephant is in the zoo, right? But for this student in India, they see elephants all the time. So, you know, your stories are interesting, and Americans are going to be interested to hear those stories.
Thank you, Mark. So now we are going to get into a little more interactive part of the session. And yeah, we are going to doing some brainstorming together. So a lot of live design concept activity is to the idea that when you want to come up with like a good idea, a good project, you actually need to go for volume and then select from that. So you really want to have a two-step process when first you produce idea, and you don't have to be alone on this. You can ask other people about idea, and then you select the one that feel like the best for you. So I'm going to share a document. Okay. So you can copy paste the link, and it will bring you, let me share again. It will bring you here. So here you can write ideas wherever there is text, and we will do that like all together at the same time. So we see how many ideas we can come up with. So we want to answer the question like, how might we spend our summer? And you can come up with like any idea. It can be like a little vague, you know, like I want to have my own project, or it can be like super specific about like a specific activity you are thinking. So we can take 2 minutes to do that. I will, so it's 24, so until 26. So just go for it. Start, you know, any idea, perhaps something you already know you want to do, or something you will like to and you don't really know yet. And you can get, you know, you can use other idea to build on it. Like perhaps you want to expand on one, or you want to write something more specific. Okay. So when people finish up, so this is the first step. You come with a lot of idea, and I will be sharing this slide, but you can actually use it and like sending to family or friend and say, hey, I'm looking to answer this question. Can you help me? And just, you know, write ideas there. The next step is to select the one you want to do. So you can do it in a qualitative way. You just look at them and say, okay, this is the one I want to do. Another way you can do that is actually move your idea in this matrix. So it's an importance and difficulty matrix. So on this quarter, you have like it's very important, but also very difficult to put in place. And here is not very important and also not very difficult. So you probably want to start with ideas that are in this quarter, like very high importance and low difficulty. So you can start with that and you can already have an action on it. So if you want to move, so of course here, since we all be working on this, it will be like a mix of, you know, like we don't all, each of us have a different view of what is difficult and what is not, but just to see how it could look like. So if you want to take one of them, it don't have to be the one you write, but some that you like, and put it back. Copy paste or just dragging, I think you need to copy, yeah. So copy and put it on the matrix where you think it will stand. So here you can also, when you do that, you can also play, and you can also decide that, you know, you will do a matrix and it will not be like difficulty, but for example, it could be geographic, like near to me here and very away from my place here. So then you can see all of the possibility you have depending on the localization, for example. Okay.
Very good, very good. You got the copying and pasting down.
So then it can also help you, like you have all of these ideas. So you can select one. You can also, you can go for a different, but at least you can recognize where they stand. And yeah, like, I remember this one was actually a difficult one. That's why it took me a little more time to went through that. Cool. So this is one of the activities we do with live design, and is something like you can do at home, and you can also do with a group of friends. So we will keep all of these ideas in mind, and when we share with you, like resources to how to get there. Okay. So now I would like to introduce Daisha. So she was introduced at the beginning. She's a director for the Office of International Services, and we wanted to have her for this session. So you have a chance to ask her any question you may have about visa or immigration, around the kind of experience you can have. So she's also available. We can share her email if you want to ask like more specific or personal question. But I will open it up if people want to ask.
Daisha, do you have anything you want to say to jump start it, or?
Sure. So for some of the different activities that I saw people typing, you would need to get authorization from our office if you're sponsored for a visa status. So for example, if you're a student in F1 status, you would need CPT or curricular practical training authorization to engage in an internship or some type of practical training experience. The qualifications for that would be that you have to have been in your program for one academic year already. So as long as you started in last fall and completed fall and spring semester, then in the summer, you're eligible for CPT. Anytime you engage in CPT, there has to be a connection to the curriculum. So you would be required to enroll in a course for the summer term, and depending on which school you're studying in, certain schools have particular courses that you would enroll in as in connection with the CPT. Regarding unpaid experiences, if it's an unpaid experience, that's a true volunteer position. So let's say you, I saw people typing about volunteering. Let's say you volunteer to do a cleanup project in your community. Something that you're just interested in, it's not related to your degree program, it's just out of personal interest, then that would not need a CPT authorization. But anything that is really integral to your degree program, that's connected to your curriculum, whether it's paid or unpaid, we would recommend getting a CPT authorization. Definitely if it's paid, you need to have a CPT authorization. But even for unpaid positions, we still strongly recommend that you have the authorization. Sometimes it's tricky to determine whether what you're doing is really work or not. Even if it's unpaid, it's possible that it could be viewed as employment. And we don't always see this right away for students while they're in their degree program, but we see it down the road when students go to apply for other visa statuses and their past history is more heavily scrutinized. And so we think that, the CPT authorization just kind of covers you for participating in a position, whether it is paid or unpaid. And we've also had students who have not gotten CPT and then get to the end of an unpaid internship and they do such a great job that the employer wants to pay them something. And at that point, it's not possible because they didn't have a CPT authorization. So that's why we recommend it. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them now.
So for I know most of this interns are going to be on site, but given the current situation, a lot of the interns might be remote. What about remote internships that are, say, international? Say, for example, if I'm in China and then I'm working with this company remotely in the state, do I still have to apply for CPT? What does the situation look like?
So it's challenging right now. And so there are a few factors that might help determine whether you need CPT. What we do know from the branch of the government, Homeland Security, which oversees the F1 program, is that they have confirmed that it's okay for students in F1 status to participate in a remote internship. They haven't specifically, I don't think there's specific guidance as to whether that's inside or outside of the US, but they have recognized through other guidance that a lot of students have returned to their home country. And so we're typically keeping your F1 record active while you're outside of the US, as long as you're continuing to enroll full time and engaging in your program. And so what I would say is that, if you're working remotely for a US-based company, your F1 record is still active, then I would recommend getting CPT. If you happen to be abroad and you're going to be doing work with a company that's not based in the US, then you don't need the CPT. That doesn't come into effect, if you're outside the US and also interning or something with a company that's not in the US. But definitely, if you're doing something remotely for a US-based company, I would recommend the CPT authorization.
We can apply for that through online methods, right?
Right. So we have a portal, iHopkins, which is our system for keeping all of records, and that's where you go and you submit your CPT request. And as part of that request, you're going to upload a copy of the position offer. And it's helpful if you review our website first, because there are certain criteria that need to be met and certain things that need to be included in that offer. But then once you submit your request, you will be routing that to your academic advisor or your faculty advisor so they can review it and give an approval, and then our office will give an approval. We do make an update to the I-20. So once we do that, we'll let you know, the various shipping options. But if you're not local to campus, then you'd have to set up a shipment so we can send that to you. But another challenge I should mention with being outside the US is that sometimes if it's a paid position or even an unpaid position, you definitely want to make sure with the employer that it's okay that you're doing what you're doing from outside the US. I know this has come up in various conversations, even with trying to hire people here at Hopkins, that there are different concerns for export controls, meaning sharing certain data with people in certain other countries. That's not my field, but the company that you want to intern with could have concerns about that. And then there are also concerns with how to pay people who are located outside of the country. So if you're running into challenges, if you're outside the US, those could be some of the challenges I'd anticipate, some of the questions you might be asked or hurdles you have to overcome. Just some things.
Thank you.
I had a question. So my situation maybe is a little different to other people in the room, but so I'm graduating this May. And my question was more about who I should talk to at Hopkins, or how I should use Hopkins to help me find internships or jobs that aren't in the US. I know there's Hopkins Hiring Week coming up, which I've signed up for. And I know a lot of those jobs are based in America, and I know that I don't want to work in the US, that I'd rather work. So I'm based in Switzerland right now, but I have British citizenship and Dutch citizenship, so I can work anywhere in Europe really. And I would like to, but I just don't know how to use Hopkins, because I know you have resources and people, but it's about who I should talk to or where I should go to do that.
So actually, I think this is perhaps more a question for us. You may want to reach out to your life design educator. So it's depending on your department. We will be able to help you on the strategy part and like where to get started. We do have less contact with employer in Europe. Like we will have less like who can hire you or things like that. It would be a little more difficult, but since a lot of company are multinational, there's still some apply, like what's true in the US still is true in Europe. So you may, I think you may want to, what is your department?
So my major is medicine, science, and the humanities.
Huh.
And
So what we could do is, for me, I know that it's part of my responsibility to think about how I support international students in their life design. And so I am new to this role, and so I'm learning about what this looks like. And so there is a resource that we were going to go over later, but we'll just mention it now. It's called Going Global, and it's on Handshake. And so I can send that to you as soon as I can. We'll get the link later too, but it's next week. Sandra and I are going to actually go in depth about what that looks like and how you can look at it for yourself. And the goal is for folks to get an account and get in there and start using it. Because that's really a resource for you all to think about how you can get a job. And their tagline is here, there, everywhere. And so that is one major resource. Sandra also did a presentation for Googling it. So you can Google jobs everywhere. And so that is also online that you can use as a resource. But I think, and we can connect too, so I can walk through it with you. So you're not alone. But that's why I'm here to, one, learn how to do it with you. So you're not alone, and then also so I can provide that resource to others.
Oh, thank you. And sorry, one other question I had was, I don't know how closely you work with the alumni office, because that was an idea I had of, okay, if there aren't many jobs posted on Handshake, for instance, that are in Europe, let's say, maybe there are people who went to Hopkins who live in where I live, and they would be more likely to hire me, or at least meet me for coffee and talk about my career options. And I don't know how to access that, or if you're the people to talk to about that.
Actually, there's several resources you can use to tap into alumni. And so we have a new People Grove system that you can access, and that's really based on trying to develop mentorship relationships with alumni. And so you hopefully can get a deeper, richer connection through People Grove. Also, the Hopkins Alumni Database is hosted by the Alumni Association, and that's called Go Hop Online, and that's actually the URL, Go Hop, HOP, online jhu.edu, or no, gohoponline.com. That's it. And then LinkedIn, a great resource to find alumni. There's actually an alumni tool that you can get to LinkedIn from the Johns Hopkins University page. On the sidebar, you'll see alumni, and then there's a tool where you can filter by location and everything. So hopefully between those three tools, we can help find some alumni. And again, your life design educator in Clifton can help walk you through those resources as well.
All right, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
All these links I'm putting in the chat too.
Okay. So we can for sure like take more questions after. I think we will have some time for questions, hopefully at the end. But feel free to ask a question if they come up after. You can unmute yourself. You can also put it on the chat, and we can answer them.
I have a quick question too about OPT. I'm also a senior and graduating this semester, and I have a job offer, but I recently applied for OPT and I haven't heard back from them. What am I supposed to do when, like, maybe I need to submit more information and my F1 expires?
Are you saying you haven't heard back from the employer or from USCIS about your OPT?
I haven't heard back from USCIS. I mean, I only applied in April 14th, so I heard a receipt. I got a receipt from them saying that they have my document, but I haven't heard back from them since.
So it sounds like you're still within the regular processing time. OPT typically takes around 90 days before you get an approval. I have heard cases recently where it's taking less than 90 days, closer to 2 months. But it's just very uncertain. I mean, this time last year it was taking 5 months. So I think it sounds like you're still within the normal processing time. And you can just continue to check your receipt, the status of your case online using that receipt number. They'll update it just a little bit, not constant updates, but to let you know if it's been approved, let you know the card is being produced, the card is being shipped, that kind of thing. But unfortunately, there's no way to really check up on the status of an application as long as you're within the regular processing time. So you would just need to wait for further information.
Okay. And so I know that I have 60 days to leave when I'm on my F1 visa. And if you say it takes 5 months, then I would have overextended my F1 visa by that time. Am I supposed to like go home and then come back until I receive my OPT?
No, as long as you've applied for OPT within the allowable application time, right? So it sounds like you've done that. You applied in April. You can stay in the US until your OPT is adjudicated. So it's fine, whether it takes 2 months or it takes 5 months, you can remain in the US during that time. You just can't start working using your OPT until you actually have that card in your hand and you reach the start date on the card, but you don't have to leave the US while it's being processed.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Do we need to have a job offer before applying for OPT, or we can start the process before we get a job?
You do not need a job offer when you apply for OPT. So if you're even looking for jobs or you would like to work in the US, I would recommend going ahead and applying for OPT just because the time frame can be very uncertain. Unfortunately, you do have to pay for that application. So I know it's not a small consideration, it costs $410, but I would say most students that we talk with don't have an actual job offer when they apply, but they're looking, they would like to work in the US. And, going ahead and applying just helps ensure that you are ready to accept a job offer, that you're prepared should you get a job offer and that you won't have to delay accepting that job, as long as you have the OPT in a timely manner.
Cool. I will also add, make sure you still connected with your, like if you have a job offer, make sure you let know, if your employer is not that familiar with OPT, sometimes they are not. Make sure you keep, contact with them and let them know, like you're waiting, but it's like, keep this connection with them so they don't think, you just forget or whatever. Just let them know, like it can take time, and like perhaps every 2 weeks you can, send them an email, say, you are still waiting. And so you keep this connection, and sometimes you really need to explain to different employer how it will work and what are the timeline. And
yeah, I think that's a great point, Louise. I like to tell students that it's really, unfortunately, a lot of times the responsibility is on you. Well, I mean, it is your visa status, right? But the responsibility for understanding what OPT is, what you can and can't do on OPT, and also, you know, explaining that to an employer really falls to you, because not a lot of employers know. I mean, some of the big employers, yes, they're familiar with OPT, but if you're looking at a smaller employer, they may not know what OPT is, and I think it can be intimidating from an employer perspective if they're not sure what they have to do. I mean, a lot of employers have heard of H-1Bs, and they know that that may take time, may take money, may not, you know, there's a lottery system. But OPT is much simpler for an employer. And so if you can explain it that way, you know, and kind of ensure that and reassure them that they don't have to do any work, you know, for OPT. For the first year that you're on OPT, they don't have to do anything. In terms of your immigration sponsorship, if you're eligible for the STEM extension, they would have to fill out a training plan with you, but that's really all. They don't have to spend any money. They don't have to invest time in filing any forms, nothing like that. So, so I really encourage you to explain that. I mean, I know at the hiring stage that can be a little tricky because legally, you know, there are only certain things that they're supposed to ask you about your immigration status. But you know, once you're on board with them, you know, make sure that you explain that this is a benefit that they really don't have to do anything for. You're still an F1 student under our sponsorship, so my office still advises you regarding your visa status.
Right. And I think the delineation is that for OPT, you don't have to have an offer. For CPT, you do need to have an offer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, CPT, you definitely have to have a job offer. That's the difference. One of the main differences is that CPT is reviewed and approved within my office. OPT is reviewed and approved by USCIS. And so for CPT, it needs to be tied to your curriculum. It's called curricular practical training. So you have to be able to explain how that particular position that you've already been offered ties to your curriculum. So that's why you do need to have a job offer when you're applying for CPT.
Aisha, can you explain the CPT rules in regards to the amount of hours or time that they can do a full-time CPT versus like a part-time if they're trying to do it during the school year, and the stipulations for doing one during the school year?
Sure. So during the school year, CPT is typically only approved on a part-time basis, which is 20 hours per week or less. And that's really tied to the fact that in F1 status, the expectation is that your study or your research is your primary objective here. And so in order to be approved for full-time CPT during the academic year, it would have to fall, the position that you're doing has to meet very narrow specifications. So it either has to be required of all students in your program. If you're in the thesis stage of your program, it has to be necessary for you to complete that thesis. Or, you know, in some cases, we're able to authorize it through one of the official JHU co-op programs. Otherwise, part-time is really the only option during the academic year. So in summer, full-time it's easier because summer is usually a break. Now I have to caveat that with, you know, if summer is your final term or if summer is your first term of a program, it's not considered a break. So part-time would be the only option there. But if you are enrolled in spring term, your summer is a break, and then you're going to enroll again in the fall, then it's possible to get a full-time authorization for summer because it's considered just an academic break. And so you're not expected to be taking classes.
Okay. So we have putting together some slides to just give you an overview about where you can go to find the opportunity you are looking for. So I will let Angela take it from here. Just let me know when you want me to change slides.
Hi, so there are a ton of strategies to search for opportunities, and I do doing a workshop fully on that. So please look out for that. We have them coming up, and then there also should be a recorded one on LDT TV on demand soon. But one of them is to use professional. Oh, we're going to start with the virtual projects. So now we know in the COVID world, a lot of the things we're going to be doing are virtual. So we wanted to share with you some virtual opportunities. Parker, Dewey, and MindSumo are websites where you can create a free profile and you can apply for what's called a micro internship. Micro internships are shorter term opportunities. They can be anywhere from 8 to 80 hours of time commitment. And definitely check with OIS if pay is involved in any of these micro opportunities, but there are websites that already list some of them there. Also check internships. You can include your zip code and make sure that you include remote positions to be able to see remote positions come up in your searches. LinkedIn has remote filters and internship filters on the job search tool. Okay. Also in Handshake, the tool for our university, although there is not a remote filter, you can use the terms like remote to find opportunities on Handshake. And on Google and many other search tools, especially the Google Blue Box, which you would learn if you came to my Designing Your Job and Internship search, you can put terms in like virtual, remote, anywhere, add those to your search, and you can find those virtual opportunities. Next slide. So some additional tips for your search. So you definitely want to make sure that you organize and keep track of your search. Okay. And so to do this, you want to be creating to-do lists. So all the different types of activities you can do during a search. There's research portion, there's developing your cover letters, there's fine-tuning your resume, all these different things. Create a to-do list of what you want to do, connecting with people, and then use calendars, reminders, spreadsheets, and other tools like Outlook Task to really help you organize your search. What you really want to do is come up with a system that works for you, because it's really easy to feel overwhelmed and like you're spinning your wheels if you don't have a solid plan and you don't organize all this information that you're gathering. So you definitely want to have a system where you can monitor which companies you're researching, what network contacts you're trying to connect with, and what positions you've applied to, and what's the status of each application. That helps you. That tracking helps you with your follow-up, because follow-up is key. It's your search, so it's within your right to follow up every 2 to 3 weeks to find out where you are in the status, right? And if you don't keep track of when you sent that initial application, you don't know when you should follow up. So as soon as you apply, put a tick, a reminder, 3 weeks from now, I need to follow up with XYZ company. Put that on your calendar, and then also do a reminder that's going to be visual or make a noise and pop up, right? So you want to use all these tools and technology that we have to your benefit. Also geographic searches. So a lot of you are, we already talked to somebody who's in a different country and are open to other countries. You can add the name of the country or even sometimes cities to your search as an additional thing, and then you're going to actually populate with very specific geographic opportunities. So we already talked about adding virtual to your search, but now we can add companies. I would do that after your initial search, then add that to it once you're already, especially if you're using Google, that's the best way to do it, is do the initial search. Find the blue box if you do that, and then add those other terms, either virtual or country names or city names, into your search, and you'll get more specific things. You also want to be creating search agents, okay? So these are things that do the work for you, okay? So a lot of times it's hard to keep track of, you know, looking up all these, sorry. I set a 5-minute timer. So a lot of times it's hard to keep track of like all these websites and checking them every day. Well, if you set a search agent, then it's going to actually notify you when a new opportunity is posted on that particular site. So you don't have to be running around checking all of those. And then you also want to save postings, because most often you want to set a time. One task might be sourcing opportunities and finding opportunities, right? And you have an hour to do that. Well, then your next hour, the next day might be, okay, now these opportunities that I found, I've saved them. And so now I can go back to those opportunities once I have my cover letters ready and then apply, and they're all there in one place. Okay. So now we're gonna switch it to Clifton, who's gonna give a preview of next week's presentation.
Hey folks, so next week we know that you all have some interest, and from last week's session we knew that it was time to continue on with some sessions and conversations. And so we are grateful that you all, some have returned and some are newer to our Tuesday sessions. And so we're excited about, like I mentioned earlier, digging deeper into going global. So Sandra and I will be back again next week with some other folks, and maybe you'll see some more familiar faces. And you can register on Handshake, and I have also provided this link in the chat. And we are at time, so I know that we are, and I want you all to know that we are here for you. And so we also had another great colleague join the call, Sue Shom. I hope I pronounced your last name correctly. She is a career service professional at Advanced Academic Programs and Krieger School of Arts and Sciences. And she is a very good resource as well for supporting in your own life designers. So I wanted to make sure I shouted her out because they could be a good resource for a lot of folks that might be on the call as well. So with that, we appreciate your time. We're willing to stay for a few more minutes if you wanted to chat some more. I know that we will have to get off about 15 minutes afterwards, just to make sure that folks can join for a later session.
And Sue, if you want to share your contact information, if you're okay with that. Also, you go to the, and Clifton, you're great at finding these URLs, to the LDL webpage. We have profiles of all the life design educators, so you can easily find what groups they work with, and then also their office hours as well. And so office hours allow you the time to just pop in. You don't have to have an appointment, and ask questions of your life design educator. They are waiting for you to help you. Thanks, Clifton.
Sue, do you want to introduce yourself? You should be, there you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi, everyone. I am Sue Shlom. I support the AAP programs, and I've been here about 6 weeks. I have a little bit of a different perspective that I bring to the table because my background is recruiting, career advising, and instructing in career coaching. So I think there's a really great crossover of kind of yin and yang between some of the services that Life Design offers and some of the programs that I offer to AAP, because mine tend to be very pragmatic and from the point of view of the recruiter. How do you get the job you want, and what does that process look like? So I would love to speak with any students that kind of have general questions. Would be happy to set up some time, and especially if there's any AAP students on the line. And best of luck to all of you in your summer and your job search and your future careers.
Other folks have more questions? Thank you, Sue. I'm going to stop the recording too. So